From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Interlocutory Bevan.
Interlocutory?
Yeah, I'm not sure I said it right. It's a legal term meaning needs more investigation.
Yes.
I thought that was...
yeah. I'm going to go ahead and agree with that.
Yeah, see? Yeah. I very rarely pick one that does not apply completely and utterly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I have to say it later in this story, so that's why I was like, that is so him. Oh my God, he needs so much more investigation, this guy. Yes, so Joshua and I were discussing how do we get on tacos. I don't know how, but I bet most of the listeners have seen Elise Meyer's TikTok video. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long. It's very short, and it was about her worst first date ever.
Okay.
And it's the one that it's been seen so far, from what I can tell, about 3.3 million views. And it got her on like either the Today Show or Good Morning America, because it, it's one of those things. I bet there's a lot of women who can say, well, I've had similar experiences. And actually, one woman commented and said, was this in Iowa, and is his name Steve? And it was the same guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So she is so adorable. Elise is so adorable. She's like, what was my worst first date ever? I'm so glad you asked. I'll tell you. This was I think she said, well, I don't know what the year, but anyway, she's dating on apps. She goes, as you do. And she's like, before I met my smoke show of a husband, I was on apps, as you do. This guy said, I like your face. Let's meet and have food. And she said, I love food. Are you my soulmate?
Nice.
So he says, if you drive to my house, I'll take us to the restaurant. We can go together. And she's like, so people have asked me when I've tried to explain this video, they're like, why didn't you just meet him there? She answers all these questions. She's like, why didn't we meet at the restaurant? I don't know. I drove 45 minutes to his house. I get there and he comes out and he's like feeling, I can't find my keys. Would you mind driving?
Oh, geez.
And she's like, okay. So he gets in and he's like, okay, take a left here, do this. And she's like, okay, he's got a plan.
Okay.
He's got a plan. So they pull up and it's a Taco Bell.
Oh, geez.
And she's like, dine in or carry out? And he's like, let's just take him back to my place. And she's like, all right, well, here's this plan again. He's got a plan. So they go through the drive-through and he leans over her and says into the speaker, I would like 100 hard shell tacos, please. Thank you. And she looks at him like, She looks at him like, all right. She's like, he's definitely got a plan. I don't know what the plan is. So they get to the window and he does this again. No. And she's like, did you forget your wallet? And he's like, yes. And she goes, do you need me to pay? Yes. Thank you. So she pays for 100 hard shell tacos. And they take them back to his house and they walk in the house and they sit at a dining room table and his father is laying on the couch. And he goes, okay. She says, okay, he lives with his dad. That's fine. So soon she's like, I am unwrapping my, first of all, I forgot. He like loudly says in this huge voice, let's feast. So she's unwrapping her taco and the dad comes up and stands between them at the dining room table. And she's like, we've got 100. So, he can have. So he's taking a taco and he's eating it. And he stands there with his mouth full and looks at her and goes, would you like to see my studio? And she said, that's when I decide this date's over.
Yeah.
She scrapes the rest of the tacos into a bag, puts them in her purse and says, thank you so much for this evening. You're never going to hear from me again. And she's like, I paid for them. So I took them and got in her car and left.
Oh, nice.
And someone commented, underneath there, was his name Steve and was this Iowa? And she's like, yes.
Wow.
He did the same thing to me.
He's done this more than once.
Yeah. This is someone I think who's very committed to tacos. And I like tacos too.
I like tacos, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bad first date.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. I think that's a bad first date.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I I'll tell you some later that might top it. But
Well, I'll tell you what brought it up is that someone was telling me about a woman who a guy said, in Atlanta, let's meet for drinks. They met someplace and she orders 4 plates of appetizers that are oysters.
Mm-hmm.
And she does this 12 and I think so it's 48 oysters.
That's a lot.
I would think. I don't know. I'm allergic to shellfish and I'm not ever going to do that. So she takes a video of herself, like slurping. Right. And the guy is just like staring at her, and then at some point he ordered a drink. She ordered a drink.
Yeah.
And she ordered 4 plates of oysters. And at some point he gets up to go to the bathroom and then he leaves and texts her and says, by the way, your oysters are on you. I'm out. And she was furious that he left. And I was like, he left where she had to pay for his drink, but she ordered all the food. So she should,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little cowardly on both sides.
Yes. Yeah, right. And it was shitty on both sides. You're right.
Like,
maybe they deserve each other. They should be together.
Absolutely.
How the fuck did we get on this topic? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't remember.
This has absolutely nothing to do with this case. Hi, welcome to...
I think it's because... Yeah. Welcome to Bad First Dates talk.
Yeah. We weren't even talking about that.
No, I think it had something to do with... Matthew was telling us about the fast food places from last time.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I don't remember exactly.
I don't even know what. Yeah, boy.
It doesn't have anything to do with the case at all whatsoever.
No, there's no tacos. Maybe I'll weave something in. There's no tacos or oysters. It's very.
And then when I just sat down, you said, "Oh, there were so many things I wanted to talk about before the case."
And I forgot all of them, but tacos took precedent, and then now.
Is it because we're going to lunch later? Like, we need tacos? It's tacos.
Well, now we do. We didn't, but now we do. This case was actually sent to me, and I was completely unaware of it, sent to me by a beautiful listener, Chastity. And she sent a lovely email saying that she found the podcast, and she is from Kentucky, an area of Kentucky I was unfamiliar with. It's Russellville. And she said she was 80 episodes in, she was binging, and then she said, I'm so sorry about Mark, and I just want you to know when I heard the news, I cried. That's like the sweetest thing that people you've never met, you don't know, hear, that, we've lost someone and they cry too. That's like the sweetest thing. So Chastity sent me this, and she's very interesting the way she rolls information out. So she sent me this case, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's the unsolved homicide. At first she was missing, but she was later found. The unsolved homicide of Whitney Copley. And I'm going to pronounce it Copley because I've heard newscasters pronounce it Copley, but it's Copley. So I would say Copley.
I think you're correct in saying Copley.
Yeah. And then like 2 or 3 emails in, Chastity says, Whitney is my cousin.
Oh, wow.
Now, she says, honestly, we were not, that close. But, this case, I know her family is still really, troubled by this case. And I get it. This family has had a lot happen. So then all I knew was about Whitney's case. And then 3 or 4 emails in, Chastity says she had a drug addiction. She had gone to rehab. She was off drugs and then witnessed, and I have not found that specifically, but I do know what happened had to be horrible. Her father killed her mother.
Oh, geez. She
was 16. So I don't know if she witnessed it. I've heard both things. I've heard the children were there, or 2 of the children were there, 2 of the daughters. 2 of the daughters were somewhere else. I've also heard one was out and one was at school. So I don't know. It was early in the day when this happened, and it appears their dad was quite a bit older than their mom, and they had been together about 20 years.
Okay.
Like their mom was 40 and their dad was like 69.
Oh.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So they had gotten together when their mom was like very young. But we're going to talk, and I know it's going to seem like we're going to be talking mostly about, Whitney's mom, but we're going to be talking about Whitney at first because, we know what happened to Whitney's mom. The case is pretty fascinating, what has happened since then, but we don't know what happened to Whitney. We can guess, but we also know people have to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
People have to know. So Whitney was 24. She was a mother to 2, and she lived in a home with 2 sisters and her 2 daughters. And she had instances of going away and then coming back. She wouldn't tell people where she was, but she would come back, and she was never gone for long. She had never been gone for as long, as it finally dawned on them. She's gone for a while, and we need to find her.
Okay.
Coupled with the fact that her phone had recently been broken. So she would communicate with Facebook Messenger.
Oh, okay.
She would find a place, someone, a way, connectivity to communicate with her family and say, hey, I'm here. I'm with these friends, or I'm here. I'll be back soon. She was always in communication that way, even if, her phone wasn't working.
Got it. And the daughters are young and staying with the aunt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all living together. 3 sisters and her 2 kids.
Got it.
She's living with her 2 sisters and her 2 kids. They're all living in a house together. So she had told her sisters, I'm going to a party. I'm going to be with some friends. She'd packed some clothes in a bag and said, I'll be overnight, but I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay.
So she was spotted at a gas station on their cameras, and that's the last known appearance of her being seen alive. This is September 29th of 2015. They found her remains behind the same gas station a year later.
Oh, no.
It's odd, and I know some people have suggested that maybe she wasn't there the whole time.
That she left, like that she wasn't there and somebody brought her body back? Okay.
I don't know how adept after a year they would be at deciding that were true or not.
Sure.
It is odd because, but detectives will tell you over and over and over again, they have looked every inch of something a million times and they missed something.
Sure.
It happens, even to the most eagle-eyed people. And I'm going to tell you, they had a lot of really good help. I'll explain the help they had, but they had searched that area, again and again and again behind the gas station, and she's found there a year later.
Okay.
Now, in a barn that's not too far from that gas station property, a pair of her pants were found, and her family found those.
Oh, wow.
And said, this was like maybe a month after she went missing. They were like, hey, these are her pants.
How do they identify that they're her pants?
Because they all lived in the same house and they knew her pants.
They knew. Okay.
Yeah, it's girls, sisters. They may have even shared them.
Those are right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, these are her pants.
Got it.
So they found her pants in a barn. Pretty odd. Pretty, in my mind, pretty odd. So it's 14 months after she went missing. Her sister Sarah posted on Facebook, months of searching, grieving, and keeping hope. We made a promise as a family we would never give up until you were brought home. And today our hearts are heavy. Our eyes are full of tears, but we're thankful to God that he answered our prayers.
Wow.
Yeah. So the prevailing theory is that she went with these friends, even though she said, hey, I'm going overnight. I'm just going to pack a little bit of clothing. Such a good question. You said, how did they know they were her pants? She borrowed these pants from her sister, Sarah.
It was the sister's pants. Yeah.
And she put them in a bag and saying, I'm just going to go for the night and I'll return the next day. So the following morning, she had sent a message over Facebook Messenger that she was like, hey, I stayed overnight at my friend's house and I'll be back in a few hours. Now, she didn't return, and there were some odd pieces of communication that they didn't know how to interpret. She sent to a friend via Facebook Messenger, hey, What are you doing? I really need to talk to you. That was after she had sent to her sister, hey, I stayed overnight at a friend's house. I'll be back later today.
Wow.
So her friend didn't get the message, and then nothing else, by then she was gone and she didn't explain. So what did that mean? It didn't sound like it was like a cry for help, really, but she somehow found access to Facebook Messenger. She was either on somebody else's phone or computer. They weren't, I guess they haven't traced it.
That's what I was going to say. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Can they ask Facebook for
There's so much, I'll tell you what I think.
I don't know how Facebook is about giving that information away, but
yeah, if you get a warrant.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you what I think they think happened and why maybe. I mean, I'm going to pray that this was investigated as much as it should have been. I'm thinking they think she fell off the wagon and it was an overdose and somebody panicked and left her somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Those people need to say this is what happened. Even if it was an accident, I don't care. The thing that bothers me is the autopsy said they can't. That's why I think potential overdose, the autopsy, even though it was 14 months later, there is no determined cause of death or manner of death.
Okay. So that just means it could have been anything, but it's obviously there's no bullet holes or something that would have lasted 14 months.
Right.
So
unless it were like a shot through like soft tissue or I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate anymore. There's too much speculation
there's just
already.
Nothing that lasted that long.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like the thing that bothers me, it's like no foul play is indicated, which to me means what's left.
Yeah. And then that leaves, okay, whoever you're doing drugs with, they were scared. But yeah, dude, step up and say, give the family some relief and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I was scared and didn't want to talk about what I knew. Here I am talking about what I knew.
Right. The fact that, I mean, why would her pants be separated from her body in a barn? It's the only clue that was found, and the family found it 2 months after she went missing. It was found in November. She goes missing September 29th. In November, her family finds, the pair of pants they recognize in a barn.
Sure.
Her body wasn't there. And granted, these aren't that far apart.
Right.
But, I mean, the fact that her pants are separate from her body and found in a different location, I don't think a scavenger drags pants unless it's a real fashionable raccoon or something.
Sure.
I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be like, I want
fabulous raccoon.
Right, exactly. I want those pants.
Well, okay, wait. Let me clarify. Did her body not have pants on at all, or were these the pants from her overnight bag?
I get what you're saying. I feel like they were from the overnight bag.
Okay.
They were pants that she had taken. When I say separated from her body, I meant they were probably in a bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those were her spare pants.
They didn't. There's so little released about this case.
Yeah.
Because she was listed as a missing person for so long, 14 months, and then they find her remains. It was like she's 5'7", 110 pounds, brown hair, hazel eyes. They list all the scars and tattoos and, small little tattoos. And then when she's found, they don't say clothed or unclothed. Basically, all they say is there's no foul play suspected.
Okay. Well, okay.
So that must mean her clothes are on her?
It must be, right? Because if you're just found unclothed, then that sounds
it's not going to be that same raccoon taking your pants off or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So somehow her body and her overnight bag with the clothes in it were found in two different places, but
not too far apart, but yes, but not next to each other.
But it could be either way, right? It could be that she was killed there at the gas station, her body was there, and then somebody took off with her bag. Or or like you say, they were hanging out doing drugs in the barn, overdosed, and somebody brought her body back and hid it behind the gas station.
Yeah, I wonder.
Like, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
So her family still, in this hunt to try to find her, they have her listed as a missing person with the Kentucky State Police, and they got permission from the police to have the Ohio chapter of EquiSearch, Texas EquiSearch, conduct a big, long search of the area.
Cool.
And her sisters were like, "This is amazing." More than 120 people showed up. So they on a Saturday and a Sunday, Texas EquiSearch. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I mean, you've mentioned them before for sure.
Such an amazing, group that are in, I don't know if they're in every state now, but it's magnificent that, a grieving father whose daughter was missing for so many years starts this agency that is incredibly helpful. Yeah. Incredibly helpful. And this, such a sweet, I've gotten so many sweet emails this week where people say, thank you for giving us options on how we can volunteer and help, because not everybody is going to want to not everyone has the capability physically or mentally to traipse through, brush. I hate the outdoors. Yeah. And I, have said more than once, I showed up looking for Will Sarazon in the absolute completely wrong. I had Ugg boots on because I didn't have any sort of hiking boots. They came in handy. It was fine. I know. Okay. I had on my Ugg boots, and a long. I was told about this, a long piece of PVC pipe to push weeds away, and also to make sure you don't see snakes.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I've never hiked. I didn't have a stick of any kind. I didn't know, and it's not like a hike, like a pleasure hike. Sure. But you're looking through places that are typically covered with brush and sometimes garbage, depends. And I definitely identified every single bone I found as a human being, and most of them were goat. Didn't know that, but apparently this part of California was overrun by goats.
Wow.
I found so many bones. And it was like, please put the goat femur down, Melissa.
How close is a goat skeleton to human? I mean,
you don't find the whole thing. What I meant was I found like a separate bone.
One femur, right?
Yeah, I find a bone that looks to me humanish. Right. It's a bone,
right?
And it's like, no, it's a goat. Put it down. All right. So not everyone is meant to be search and rescue. I am not meant to be. Why are you laughing?
I love the disappointment on your face.
Yeah.
No, that was goat too. Oh.
Yeah, okay. I was sad. I was like, I found him. No, you did not. It's never that easy. But yeah, I mean, you can research behind your computer. You can, pass out flyers. You don't have to be an outdoorsman. But it's just so great that there are places, organizations like Texas EquiSearch. So they looked for her and looked for her and looked for her. And finally, 14 months later, her body is found not far from where she went missing, with, police saying no foul play is suspected. If you don't release any more information, I am left to my own devices, and it's probably never as clear cut as I would like to think it is, So I know somebody knows, and I will be giving you the information. But here is something, and I don't want this to add like a layer, like here is why we need to pay attention to cases like this. But this family has been through
absolutely
too much already.
Yeah.
So when she was 16, her father killed her mother. Okay, so he was a retired deputy.
Oh, wow.
Which is sort of, I don't like it when people, I'll tell you some information I found that upset me is that what happened is listed under something called like brutality of the blue, like cops who kill people, and not like criminals, but people in their lives.
Sure.
Typically it's their spouse, and they list people like, Drew Peterson, who was a cop in Illinois, who killed 2 wives, one drowned in the bathtub and the other goes missing. But he's a horrible human being.
Sure.
He's not like your regular cop, right? He is a guy who has issues with women, who becomes controlling and marries women younger than him. He's been married like 3 or 4 times. And,
Right.
you kill more than one person, you're, in my mind, even though it's supposed to be 3, you're a serial killer in my mind.
Oh, it's 3
Yeah.
makes you okay.
I know. Unless it's like 2 at the same time, that's like considered a spree killer. I don't like the definitions.
Yeah, I don't know what the category is. I think killing one is no good.
I think so too. Now, that's actually a really brilliant point you brought up, Joshua, because what we're going to talk about, and I promise I really still am focusing on Whitney, Ronald Copley's killing of Pamela Gail Copley in November of 2007. The legality of this is so uncomfortable. And I realize most everyone who is convicted of murder can have a chance to appeal it. And the most common thing you use to appeal is ineffectual counsel. However, Ronald Copley entered a plea. He plea bargained, but then appealed, saying ineffectual counsel because he wasn't given the information that he could have pled EED, extreme emotional distress.
Okay.
So, Ronald Copley pled guilty to the murder of his wife from 2007. I'm not giving him excuses because I'm not even sure the extreme emotional distress or extreme emotional disturbance defense is legitimate. It is legitimate in a court of law. I don't, So what was said is that Pamela had been unhappy for years and had been cheating on him and doing things. I don't know if I don't have any proof of this. This is, I hate, there's going to be 2 things I'm going to say that I'm going to hate saying because I don't have proof. What I have is what Ronald Copley's defense attorney said happened. And the other thing I'm going to say is a post from a woman who was friends with Pam, who said that Ronald was not good to her through the whole marriage. Okay. So to me, it's a he said, she said, literally.
Sure.
Ronald Copley's defense attorney said that she was taunting him by blatantly having affairs, leaving used condoms around the ground near his truck. He had attempted suicide and was taken to the hospital. He was, put in an evaluation program. He was considered depressed. He got out of that. All right. So this is a lot, and it's a lot of legal shit. So what I'm going to do is save this post by a friend of Pam's till the end. So 2015. I love that this says the Commonwealth of Kentucky Court of Appeals rendered September 11th, 2015, not to be published. As I'm holding it in my hand.
Right.
Right. So what is fascinating is that one judge dissented. I don't know how many judges on the Court of Appeals there are. I guess there'd have to be 3, maybe. I'll have to see. Let me see if they're signed at the bottom. All I can tell you, one judge dissented and said, nope, here is what it was put forth to the Court of Appeals by Ronald Copley's defense. It is undisputed, and I don't know how it's undisputed. In 2007, Copley's wife, Pamela, was involved in extramarital affairs. She openly flaunted the affairs, planting used condoms next to his truck, receiving numerous landline phone calls from her paramours, staying out late most nights. Copley fell into a deep depression. On November 3rd of 2007, he was hospitalized following a suicide attempt. He claims that 4 days after the suicide attempt, he and Pamela engaged in a verbal altercation that became physical. She struck him in the head with an object. It is disputed whether it was a telephone or a gun. What is undisputed is that Copley chased Pamela with a gun and shot her.
Oh, geez,
she died of her wounds. He then stabbed himself multiple times in the stomach, once again attempting suicide. Now, I will tell you that he ran, got in his truck, wrecked his truck, took refuge in a camper, and stabbed himself in the stomach to try and kill himself.
Some random person's camper, you found?
Neighbor.
Wow.
And apparently these wounds were not life-threatening, so they didn't consider them a real suicide attempt. But I will tell you what is, I know, what is uncomfortable, because, you know, a head injury could cause you to act differently, and I'm not giving him any excuses. He was taken to the hospital where there was a scan of his brain, and it revealed a large hematoma. So he had been hit in the head.
Okay.
He says it was Pamela. He was released from the hospital on November 14th of 2007, and he is immediately charged with murder, wanton endangerment, and burglary. I believe the burglary would be in the
trailer.
Camper.
Yeah. Okay.
In April of 2008, Copley filed a motion to suppress evidence which had been found at his residence. You know, this discovery. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the record reflects that the proceedings in the trial court, including discovery, were suspended until the court dismissed the appeal for being interlocutory, which is like Joshua, lacking finality and needing more investigation. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So 3 years after Pamela's death, and he had taken, you know, a plea deal. I think he got 20 years.
Okay.
So in September of 2010, nearly 3 years after Pamela's death, Copley's counsel hired a Dr. Hartwell Smith to conduct a mental examination of Copley, because they were going to go back and appeal. They appeal, obviously, the 20 years and say, hey, he was acting under extreme emotional disturbance when he shot Pamela.
Okay.
So in 2010, he had entered a guilty plea in exchange for dismissal of the other charges. I don't know why he needed the, you know, burglary and, you know, but he wanted those dismissed. He said because he didn't want his family to go through a big court trial.
Okay.
Like, I murdered her, but the burglary, you got to drop that.
Yeah.
I don't get it either. So he entered.
Is 20 years a shorter sentence than he might have gotten?
Yes.
At a trial?
If he would have pled not guilty, gone to trial, it could have been 20 to 50 years.
Okay, so
20 years.
20 years is the bottom of the.
Yes, I jumped ahead. I didn't mean to answer. I thought your question was going to be, is 20 years less than what he would have gotten if he had pled extreme emotional disturbance or distress? Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because that would have been manslaughter.
And you get way less for manslaughter than murder. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that's what this appeal was about. So he accepts this, you know, plea to murder and a sentence of 20 years incarceration. Of course, it was appealed, but then it was upheld by the Supreme Court of Kentucky in March of 2012. Now, in November of 2013, Copley's defense files a motion to vacate his sentence, alleging he received ineffective assistance of counsel.
Okay.
You know, a trial court held an evidentiary hearing in 2014 and entered an order denying that motion in 2014. And then there's an appeal of that. And that's what follows here.
Got it.
So a defendant can, you know, put forth a statement saying, I received ineffectual counsel. My counsel erred in not telling me what I could have pled to,
Sure.
and I took a plea bargain. To me, okay. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'm not an attorney, but it kills me. In order to prevail on this motion, an appellant must overcome a presumption that counsel's representation was ineffective.
Okay.
Or must overcome a presumption that a counsel's representation was effective.
Right. Okay. That's the presumption we're going on, is that all lawyers do their best.
Right.
Like that makes sense.
So Copley argues that his counsel was ineffective by failing to fully advise him regarding a defense of extreme emotional disturbance, EED. Kentucky revised that statute says that a person shall not be guilty of murder if he acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance for which there was a reasonable explanation or excuse. That is also determined by a jury, which I don't even know how the hell you do that. It provides that a person found to be acting under EED may be prosecuted for manslaughter. Murder is a capital offense. Manslaughter is a Class B felony.
Got it.
If convicted of murder, Copley faced a variety of possible sentences: life imprisonment or a range of 20 to 50 years. Also possible were sentences of death, life imprisonment without parole, and life imprisonment without parole for 25 years. And that's imposed only if the Commonwealth has provided notice that certain aggravators are present. Murder of multiple victims, murder for financial gain. If the defendant has committed previous capital crimes, murder of a law enforcement officer, or murder with a weapon of mass destruction. Manslaughter, on the other hand, is a Class B felony. It carries a penalty of imprisonment of a range of 10 to 20 years. He could have received a sentence as light as 10 years.
Okay.
Right. And I get why you file an appeal. Almost every murder that is a murderer is found with a defendant found guilty, an appeal is almost automatic.
Sure.
And the main thing you use is that you say ineffectual counsel. You have to, try to comb through. You can also say the prosecution withheld whatever. He didn't say it was the prosecution. This is this EED is so slippery to me.
Yeah.
This is so... The triggering event and the act of homicide do not have to be contemporaneous. The catalyst event may fester in the mind before erupting.
I mean, okay.
Right.
Their relationship was not healthy.
Right.
Or as it's presented by the attorney, at least.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know anything. But okay. It wasn't a healthy marriage. It wasn't a healthy...
Right.
But that doesn't mean you're allowed to kill somebody.
Right.
That means, hey, split up.
Oh, yeah, there is that option, isn't there?
Fix it or split up.
Right.
Those are the two.
Right.
Not end somebody's life.
Right. So Copley testified if he had known that the EED defense was available, he would have elected to proceed to trial instead of entering the guilty plea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I mean, sitting in your prison cell, you're going to say whatever you're going to say. Yeah.
Right. So at the evidentiary hearing, trial counsel testified that he had considered the possibility of the EED defense, but he said he did not think it was viable because of a letter that the Commonwealth would introduce. Now, the letter he's talking about is from Dr. Hartwell Smith, who said, "It's been 3 years. I do not feel qualified to say that he was operating under EED."
Oh, that was okay. That was the Commonwealth of Kentucky's submission.
Uh-huh.
It was the Commonwealth's doctor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, he said, "I didn't think it was viable because you were going to introduce that letter. I just wanted to spare my family, a trial, So his defense attorney said, "We did have general discussions regarding EED. This is uncomfortable." His counsel said, "I didn't remember that he attempted suicide after he had shot Pamela." Well, that's weird because he is found in a trailer stabbing himself. He said that Copley asked him to negotiate a plea bargain in order to avoid subjecting his family to the ordeal of a trial.
Okay.
Copley testified that the counsel did not explain the viability of the EED defense to him. He did not think he needed to inform his counsel that he had attempted suicide after shooting his wife because it was there in the medical records.
Right. Yeah, okay.
I agree with him there.
Yeah, if it's all part of the thing, sure.
He said that he entered the guilty plea because counsel led him to believe there was no other defense available to him.
Okay.
So, several members of the Supreme Court said, we are persuaded that Copley received ineffective assistance. The existence of EED is a question to be answered by a jury. That's the part I just think is like, how does a jury decide? I loved what you said. Your marriage isn't healthy. Obviously, it's toxic. Fix it or get out.
Yeah.
You don't kill her and then superficially stab yourself.
Yeah. No.
So I mean, I understand if Whitney, turned to drugs.
So yeah, I was going to go back to that. How old are the daughters during all of this?
Well, she was 16.
She was 16 at the time of the murder. Is she the oldest?
No, I believe she's somewhere in the middle.
She's in the middle.
I know. I think
it is. I mean that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds like you get a great deal. 20 years, and then how much of that do you actually serve? And yeah, all for you get to murder your wife, and then only get sentenced to 20. That sounds like an all right deal.
That's fair, huh?
Yeah.
All right, now this is the part that I'm going to read that is uncomfortable, but I'm going to read it anyway because she is obviously doesn't mind putting her name out there, and it seems very authentic and from the heart. Again, it's hearsay, but I feel like it's important to understand what this family's been through. Her name is, I think it's Diane Carter. It's in here because she wants her name actually known. Although Pam is 5 years older than we became really good friends when we were waitresses at a restaurant. I was 16. And she met Ronald when she was like early 20s, and he was like, quite a bit older.
Sure.
Pam was a very sweet, beautiful person who had a laugh that even on your worst day would make you laugh too.
Oh.
When I was 17, Pam met Ronald, who from the get-go lied to her and told her he was divorced, and he wasn't.
Oh, geez.
He was abusive to her, and that was 1990. How I remember the year is that Pam took me to the health department in 1990 when I found out I was pregnant. My firstborn and Pam's firstborn are just a few months apart, and when Pam found out she was pregnant, she hid from Ronald at my house. The day I found out my friend had died, my mother reminded me of Pam hiding at my house, and she said calmly and quietly that Ronald would kill her someday.
Oh, wow.
He was already threatening her then.
Jeez.
After her daughter was born, she showed up at my house at 2 a.m. and she was carrying the baby. She was screaming and crying because Ronald had beaten her. First, he claimed the baby was not his. Seeing my friend like this, my first instinct was to call the police. But Pam begged me not to because Ronald was an ex-cop and an upstanding member of society.
Oh, boy.
I saw the fear and panic in my friend's eyes, and I was scared she would take off, so I didn't make the call. And that's the first time I felt guilty about all of this. I'm sitting here now. It's almost overwhelming. I should have made the call and sat on top of her if that's what it took to keep her there, but I didn't.
Ouch.
To see my friend was in love with someone who abused her in her mind first. Pam was 23 when this incident happened, and Ronald was 43. So he's only 20 years older. He had been a married man who lied to a young girl. He was not an upstanding citizen of anything. He beat and stalked a petite girl like Pam who was unable to defend herself because, unfortunately, Ronald was not her first abuser. My second regret came 4 years later when I actually believed Pam when she came to my house and announced that Ronald had changed and they were getting married for the second time. The first time was in 1991, but they annulled the marriage one day later.
Oh, wow.
I bought their wedding cake. My friend was so happy. The wedding was going to be small, and I wanted to contribute, so I bought the cake. My third regret is this. Ronald always knew that I knew he was a snake in the grass and that I did not respect him, and he was not an upstanding member of society. After seeing Pam's bruises and abuse, I couldn't, and I was not afraid to tell him. After Pam and Ron were married, Pam was no longer allowed to be around me.
Mm.
The only time I could see my beautiful friend was if I saw her out somewhere. That's the biggest regret, was allowing that jerk to take my friend away from me.
God.
Hey, Ron, if you ever read this, my name is Diane Carter. You can't badmouth, beat, intimidate, or hurt me ever again, and you can't do that to my friend. Now the whole world knows what a coward, jerk, and most of all, not an upstanding member of society that you are. I've been to my friend's grave many times, and you can't keep her from me now. You can't take my memories. In short, you have shown the world what a loser you are. Anyone out there, with the exception of his children that are involved, who has wasted any pity on this horrible beast, should know that all monsters are not hiding under your bed. Some sleep right beside you. My beautiful Pam's did.
Man.
Yeah. That's hard to read. I also find such authenticity in it.
Mm-hmm.
She names herself. She doesn't hide.
Yeah.
She takes responsibility for feeling she didn't report things sooner.
Yeah, that's hard.
I wouldn't normally read something that is quote unquote hearsay, but it hit me so hard. I went back and forth all week whether I should, but I had to.
Yeah.
I had to. It's, I don't know why someone would exaggerate or not tell the truth in a case like this. He's already incarcerated and he's still there.
Yeah.
I did look him up. He's on the Kentucky website. He's still there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's still
So he's now
in his 70s.
Yeah, so he hasn't been paroled.
No.
Okay.
No. Oh yeah, hold on. I actually have the soonest he could. I do have that. Hold on. The minimum expiration for his date is going to be his expected time served April 27th of 2028. His parole eligibility date is May 20th of 2027. Yeah, but
so he's not even eligible for parole until serving 19-ish years of his 20 years?
Yep.
Wow, okay.
Maximum expiration of sentence date 5/19 of 2030. That would be the 20 years, because I guess he went in 2010.
Okay.
So 20 the minimum would be like 18 years.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I promise I'm still holding Whitney. I mean, I just can't what the whole family has been through, Sarah, Melinda. And I will tell you, I did try to contact the family. I did try to contact Melinda, who has a Facebook page. And I know she saw the message, but she did not get back to me. So maybe she doesn't want to talk about the case. I know she does a lot of great work on it's actually still called like Bring Whitney Copley Home. And they did find her, but I guess they didn't change the name, and she puts up information about cases. She does work hard on other cases, spreading the word on other cases. And maybe she just doesn't want to talk about it. And I get it. Yeah. This is a lot.
This is, God. I can't.
I don't, we all have our way of dealing with things. I can't imagine being Whitney. I know she has, family, people who love her and support her, but I can't imagine what they all went through.
Yeah. Yeah. As such young people that.
And it wasn't 1 year.
Yeah, no.
It was,
over and over.
Diane Carter saying when she showed up at my house 4 years later saying, you know, Ronald has changed and we're going to get married, you want to believe that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, and you can't, like, you, as your friend, you have to respect your friend's choices.
Of course.
Even if you're looking back now and going, oh shit, this was a trend, and it trended all the way to the end, you know, the inevitable end that the mother saw.
I can't believe her mother reminded her, hey, you know, when she was here hiding, she said, one day he will kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a lot happened after that for many, many years. And he obviously has mental health issues. If he, you know, whether they're true attempts at suicide or whether it's just cries for help, he's obviously got mental health issues, but I don't even care anymore.
No.
You know, he took a life. And in my mind, he took Whitney's life too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah.
So I know that's a difficult story to hear. It's a lot to try and consume. He's still incarcerated and that's okay with me. I do hope someone, and we know someone, more than one someone knows what happened to Whitney, why she ended up where she was, whatever it is. I hope someone finds in their soul to bring her daughter's peace and her sister's peace. This family deserves peace.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They deserve peace. There's never going to be closure, but we can give them some peace by, you know, letting them know what actually happened. So if you know what happened to Whitney Copley in September of 2015, please contact the Kentucky State Police at 1-800-222-5555. You can always call us at our Tipster hotline at 832-847-7837. That's 832-TIPSTER. And you can find us on any of the social media platforms. We have a Facebook, Just the Tipsters page. We have Instagram and Twitter. Our Instagram handle is at JT Tipsters. Our Twitter handle is at JT Tipsters Pod, and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.